Welcome to the Bold Money Revolution podcast. This is your source for straight talking, no fluff, business and high performance conversations that add real depth and value to the way bold leaders live, work, and thrive. I'm your host, Tara Newman. I'm here to show you how to optimize your performance as a leader so that you can grow a business that is profit-rich, efficient, and allows you to generate real, tangible wealth for yourself and others. We are here to help you lead with your values, to perform without overwhelm and burnout, and to do your most important work in the world. Hey, it's Tara, and I wanted to come in here and personally invite you to hop on a call with me, a free consultation call, where we can decide if the Bold Profit Academy is the right program for you right now. And here's one of the ways that you'll know that you need to hop on a call with me, all right? We are focused on implementation. So if you're not getting things done in your business, or you're not focused on the right tasks, you're not maximizing your time, then you are going to want to join the Bold Profit Academy, because our core focus is implementation. And we do that through giving you guides and worksheets and calculators and frameworks that you can use in your business. We just run through our offer creation curriculum, and we had a participant go through it, and she created a highly leveraged offer at a premium price. But the way we created the resources for her to do that allowed her to take everything that she put together and then write her sales page with ease. That is called implementation, and that is called efficiency, because we want you to have more profit while working less hours and using the simplest, most effective strategies to do that. So if this sounds like something that you desire, that you're struggling with and you need support with, I want you to book your call with me over at theboldleadership.com/academy so I can help you decide if this is the right time for you to join us. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Bold Money Revolution podcast. I am here today with a guest who I'm really excited to bring to you, Ellie Tria. And she is someone who I've met online on Instagram. We've connected a few times for Zoom coffee, and we just have so much in common, and we have the most enjoyable conversations. And so that's really what I was looking to bring to everybody today. Now, Ellie is in marketing. But what I love about Ellie's approach to marketing is she's about going deep and not wide. She is coming from her experience, which is tremendously in-depth, being in the hospitality industry and marketing in the hospitality industry. She is what she calls a serial entrepreneur. So like me, she has had many businesses. This isn't her first shot at this. And she just brings such a depth of not just experience, but where I think Ellie and I really want to have this conversation that we're going to have today from is some of the places where we have a lot of common ground around being introverted, around being highly sensitive, and being neurodiverse, which we are going to talk about. And what we want to share today is something that we've been jamming on personally in Instagram DMs and on our Zoom coffee chats around reimagining marketing in the day and age of social media. But social media is not feeling so social these days, Ellie.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I feel like we're really more disconnected than ever.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I know you and I, just talking before you started recording, having a similar experience in terms of not having the capacity to take on everybody else's life and what they're talking about and what they're doing. And also not wanting to particularly share what's going on for us either. It feels, kind of feels more invasive than it ever has before. Like I feel the pressure to be like, this is my private stuff. And I've never liked sharing that kind of stuff.
Yeah. You know, I've been digging in a lot to cults and also like the Fire Festival with like the influencers and everything. And I think it was in the Fire Festival that they were talking about where they defined influencer as someone who monetizes their identity.
Oh, it just gives me the shivers.
Yeah. You know, that concerns me. I remember when I heard that, I talked about this on the podcast before, but that just really concerns me from a psychological perspective for humans. Like that doesn't feel like something that's necessarily a natural place for us to be in, where we're monetizing our identities. And I know for me, it's been always a challenge on how do I utilize social media, because I'm here to monetize my service, my business. That's how I want to use it. And I don't want to monetize my identity. I don't want to have that level of influence over people. I want to teach people how to influence themselves.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I think that's so important when it comes to, I mean, the landscape of marketing that we're seeing at the moment. It made me laugh when you talked about cults, because that's sort of what happened. There's been this trickle down effect of these cultish followings of gurus and influencers and 7-figure business owners. Like, they struck upon something that worked in terms of marketing, and they've taught it to their followers, and then their followers have taught it to their followers, and their followers have taught it to their followers. And I don't know if anybody's actually stopped to kind of question both the ethics and the humanity of it, but also the fact that we are living in this digital age where everything changes at 100 miles an hour. And what worked in terms of marketing 3, 4, 5 years ago doesn't work now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge, because I'm naturally curious. I'm an Enneagram 5, so I get really like into the deep thinking of things. And so probably about 6 or 9 months ago, a colleague of mine, a friend of mine, was talking about her launch and how her organic traffic was really down, and that was really impacting her launch. And she was kind of thinking about, like, what have I done wrong? Right. That's the immediate place where she was going. Like, what have I done wrong? Is it something that I've said? Is it something? And I was like, you know what? Like, I just don't think people are navigating social media in the way that we think they are anymore. And I did some surveying on my Instagram. And what I found was that over the last year, now we're talking 2020, COVID, racial reckoning, the US 2020 election cycle.
Of course, that all happened as well, didn't it?
Yeah, I know, right? Where the whole world was watching our election cycle. I mean, with holding their breath, and our poor Canadian neighbors who are actually sharing a continent with us. But I said, are you using social media less or more? And the majority of people said less. And then I got really curious about the people who said more. So I said, out of those of you who said you're using it more, are you intentionally using it more? Because maybe we're in our homes and we're seeking that connection. And so we're using it intentionally to reach out to people and connect and build relationships. Or are you doom scrolling, basically, right?
Yeah.
And the majority of them were just scrolling. There wasn't an intention behind it. I think 25% said that there was some intentionality behind their increase in usage, but 75% who were using it more were basically just scrolling. And I remember being on the train going into New York City pre-COVID, so this is probably like 18 months ago, and watching someone on Instagram, and it was basically just their thumb scrolling really fast and making these very fast, hearting the pictures, but they weren't actually consuming the content.
No.
And I was like, okay, so from my perspective as a business owner who's looking to gain attention, to capture somebody's attention, and to make a difference in that person's life, what do I need to do to get somebody to actually stop the scroll and read my content?
Yeah. Which is then only shown to people. It's only shown to a fraction of the people who follow you. And it's only relevant for 24 hours, I think is the life of an Instagram post, before it's just buried. So you're putting all of that thought, all of that energy, all of that creative juice into something that is just going to vanish within a day. And hardly anybody's going to see it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I think for me, it was a combination of that. And then remember when Instagram decided that they were going to prioritize Reels?
Oh my
Because
God,
it's their
that
new
was
thing.
it.
That was it for me too. I think that's around the time where we had this conversation, because I was like,
Yeah.
I'm watching people create reels that weren't even in the spirit of what a reel was supposed to be. First of all, I don't understand why we have to, if it works on TikTok, why can't we just leave it on TikTok? Why does it then have to get added to Instagram? But whatever. And then I'm watching people spend so much time trying to learn these reels and create reels, and it's driving their followers up. But I want to know how that's converting to a sale.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt like it's just one more hoop that now women have to jump through to feel successful.
Yeah. And it is predominantly women. I mean, Instagram is a platform that is marketed to women. Like,
yeah. And so I felt really kind of played with. There's also, I don't know if you've seen this, but on HBO Max, do you get HBO Max?
mm-hmm.
You're in Amsterdam?
Copenhagen.
Denmark. Okay. So on HBO Max, there was a show, Fake Famous.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea that not only I understood that you could buy followers. Yeah. I didn't realize you could buy likes and comments.
Oh, wow.
So, and they showed like how influencers kind of create these accounts and create this like kind of virality with buying followers and comments. And then I was like, this isn't real.
It's all nonsense. It's all nonsense. And I think most of us kind of knew that. Like, I mean, you can see accounts that have had hundreds and thousands of followers and then no engagement on their posts whatsoever. Like, we've seen.
Yes, I always look at that.
Yeah. You've seen the accounts which look real, but then they've got something really weird in their bio. And you're like, hang on a minute, this is a bot. Like, this isn't even a human person. Like, what the hell? And that stuff is happening more and more and more and more and more. And for those of us who have worked hard on building relationships and connecting with people, if I put out a post on Instagram, it doesn't get seen by anybody. I mean, I think just over 1,000 followers. If I put out a post, I get maybe 30 people see it, which is, what is the point? You know, when you can have an email list, for example, and you send out an email, everybody sees it, or at least everybody has the opportunity to see it.
Yeah. So I think this was starting to be the shift. And so at the end of last year, I was diagnosed with ADHD. And it really made me take a look at how my brain works differently. And how some of the things that I've been struggling with, particularly online business tactics, haven't always felt accessible to me. And I started to really look at my social media habits, behaviors, how I show up, and like why some of the things on social media have felt particularly hard for me. And I've always primarily used Instagram stories more than anything else. And then, what really tuned me into this was when story views went down dramatically because they were prioritizing reels. And I was like, all right, I'm out. Like, I'm just out. Like, I'm not interested in playing this game anymore. It's too exhausting for my brain to engage in this. And I think for me with ADHD, trying to get my words together in 15-second increments and remembering to smile and not look too serious, because this is the feedback that people send me in my DMs when I do stories, is you should smile more. You know, you come across so serious. And I'm like, I'm sorry, my brain works differently. And for me to concentrate on seeing myself in the screen, delivering a 15-second clip that has value, and smiling, I'm actually seriously concentrating, Right. So it really taxes the way my brain works. And so there was something around my diagnosis that felt very permission giving for me to say, you know what, I'm not sure this is really accessible to me. I'm not sure this really feels good. I understand that people like seeing my face and I'll do that. But also, where are my sales coming from? Are they coming from the people who are DMing me? Are they coming from the people who are watching my stories? What is the purpose of my putting a story out there? And like you, because I'm introverted and because I'm highly sensitive and because my brain works differently, I too have migrated toward email for very specific reasons. So tell me tell me how you're doing this and what's working for you and how you're using social media, if at all.
It's a really interesting thing because I've always had social media accounts kind of attached to this business, but they were always there as sort of the cherry on top of the cake. You know, I've never used it as a way to for lead generation or for driving sales or anything like that. I've put stuff out on Instagram as a way to just kind of like, here I am, this is my face. Like when I was first starting out, like telling people what this business was. There's a lot of education around what I do because no one's ever heard of it. So I need to kind of explain it a lot. That kind of morphed into just using it to sort of promote my clients and catch up with people individually. Like, so my Instagram usage moved very quickly just into the private DM messaging space, which is how you and I met, just kind of reaching out to people I thought looked interesting. So I was using it more like a sort of search engine and a way to just kind of quickly message people. It was very handy to, you could just like watch someone's stories. They were starting the conversation. You could jump in like you'd known them for years and it would kick off a whole, potentially a relationship. And I loved that kind of ease of it. Again, when, like you said, when story views went down, when the real thing came in, I had a last hurrah of just like posting consistent content and I got absolutely nothing from it. Even people who'd followed me for years were like, I'm just not seeing your stuff anymore. So for most of this year, I think I've posted maybe twice on Instagram this year and it hasn't had any impact really. My email list is where the majority of like my digital product sales come from. And my primary lead generation is either recommendations and word of mouth or doing stuff like this, doing podcast episodes, or actually finding people using Google or another search engine and reaching out to people I think look interesting and kind of expanding my search for cool people away from social media and into the other places that they're hanging out. So there are other business communities that I lean on quite heavily to find people. And again, it's personal, it's relationship building, it's finding my kindred spirits and the people I think look cool, reaching out to them, having a conversation, building a relationship. Some of them become clients, some of them become collaborators, yada, yada, yada. You know how it works. But social media it's always been a kind of nice to have. And these days I'm feeling like actually it's just not very nice. So my accounts are just dormant right now and have been for about 6 months.
Yeah, I think that you bring up something, though, that's so important that I'm not always sure people understand, and that's the relationship piece, right? The relationship building. So if you're going to be on Instagram and you're just going to post and run, or you're not going to welcome people into having conversations, like if you're like a don't DM me kind of person, like I think I think that's going to be hard. So if you're going to use social media, how are you using it to build those relationships with people, to take them offline so that you can create mutually beneficial, opportunities or things like that? So, I do get curious around that. I get a lot of people as a business coach. I get a lot of people who come to me for help because they have large social media followings, but they're not making
a subsequent
amount of money. And it's like they were told that if they build this audience that the money will come, but it doesn't, because it doesn't always translate into converting a sale. And I think that I also want to just differentiate that. I think, it works for selling some things, but I work with service providers who are selling a premium service. And that's not always the best way to sell a premium service as a service provider.
Absolutely. And you don't need a massive following if you're selling a premium service. You don't need a massive following if you're just selling like a average, middle bracket service either. You just need the right people, and you need to have conversations with them. So once you get good at figuring out who those people are, you can just go and find them and say, hi, let's have a chat.
Yeah. So it's interesting because the way we've shifted and are shifting our Instagram. So Facebook for me, it was always like it's like a wasteland. I don't touch Facebook. I know it works for some people, but I don't particularly use Facebook, right? Because your reach on your page is terrible unless you have ads. Yeah. So then it's interesting because people start posting on their personal pages, their personal profiles. And I'm so hacked off at this point with social media that and by the way, I'm just going to say something to my listeners. Don't do what I do. This is coming from a very personal place. So I just did something very extreme. And that's why I want to preface that. I went and I've been deleting my personal profile. It's still there. I'm not deleting it, taking it down, but I'm deleting the content that's on there and I know they say once it's there forever, but I just don't want that much of my personal life out there that's immediately searchable. If somebody's going to go through the effort of combing the dark web for my shit, fine. But I don't want to make it easy for them. And so I've been deleting it. And it's really interesting because I very rarely, if ever, used my personal profile to promote my business. That never really felt great to me. So I've built this entire business without using my personal Facebook profile to promote my business. And I was like, okay, that's actually really interesting to me. That's interesting data, right? So we don't use Facebook, but we do use Instagram. And so what I'm doing on Instagram is I'm using it as a relationship building tool. I'm using it to outreach, to DM people, to say hello, to see how people are doing. I'm using it to, if you land on my Instagram because you have found me there, you can easily identify who I help, how I help them, and what my thought leadership is. Mm-hmm. So what are the things that I talk about that might be interesting to you? So more like the grid, like a magazine type of a thing.
Yeah.
But we're really starting to, and we're using it to drive traffic to our email list and to promote the podcast because we can. And that's really how we're using it. I much rather people be on my email list because I then have better data and accessibility to my email list. And I outreach directly to my email list as well. I don't just send mass emails. I'll be like, hey, it's Tara from the Bold Leadership Revolution.
Mm-hmm. This is the one thing I am astonished at, how few people actually realize that you're not just collecting people to mass broadcast them every 5 minutes. These people have already opted in. They've already said, yes, I'm interested in this, enough to have it in my inbox. Those people, they are ready to hear from you. They're ready to build a relationship with you. But hardly anybody does that.
I always say, if somebody has joined your email list, they are looking for you to solve a problem that they have. They're ready.
Exactly. When I first started my mailing list, for the first 18 months, I sent a personalized video welcome message to every single person who subscribed. Mm-hmm. And it got me so many clients. It basically built my business. It was fantastic.
So I have a remarkably small list compared to what one, I think my business looks like I have, and two, what most people would deem good enough.
Mm-hmm.
But that is a highly engaged, active list that I am putting a lot of personal effort and energy into. And the reason why I've done that for me is, one, I like to write.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy to write. I enjoy writing. So, I put my effort into sending those emails. They do wind up directly in people's inboxes. I do have data around like what topics maybe got better opens than others. I can see who's clicking on links, who's interested in the program. I can make some assumptions. I do encourage people to respond to my emails. And people do respond to my emails. And there are some people who I've built like long-term relationships with who have responded to my emails. Some of them buy from me, some of them don't. I have people who email me all the time. And they're like, we love your emails, but like, we know that we're not your ideal client. And I'm like, that's fine. I love you. Like, enjoy.
Yeah. This is for you. Yeah.
And the benefit of having a smaller list is exactly what you said. You were sending individualized welcome messages. So here's how I look at an email list. So people call it like email marketing, and it's not, it's email sales. So think about it. If you owned, I always say like business doesn't change that much. The things that worked centuries ago will still work today. And I always say, think about the apothecary shop on High Street in London from like maybe the 1800s, right? And like, how would they do business? Someone walks into their shop, they greet them.
Yeah.
Someone joins your email list, you greet them.
Yeah.
They would probably take the address information for their customer so they have a way to deliver packages or reach out to them in some way. And email, so an email list essentially being a list of your clients or potential clients is something that's been around forever.
Yeah. I think the piece of business advice, I've been doing this for, over 15 years now, in one form or another, pre-internet as well. And the piece of business advice that I give almost everybody is like, go and learn what a business is. Like, go and read a business book that was written before the internet was invented and learn like the basic fundamentals of sales, marketing, all of that stuff, what a business actually is and needs to function. And then come back to the internet and go, I can use that tool to
correct
meet that need.
Correct. I say this all the time. I say that traditional online business coaches, influencers, web celebs, I really don't know what to call them. They are teaching tools before process.
Yes.
So what is your sales process? Most people don't understand what their sales process is. And then how do you use the tools that you have access to, which are wonderful and amazing. Like having the ability to automate a webinar is amazing. Having the ability to be a speaker on a Facebook Live or an Instagram Live or something, if that's what your audience likes, without having to go and stand on a stage is amazing. Being able to be a speaker and have a podcast and have a platform that way. These are all amazing tools, but how are you using them to align with your sales process? Because it's not good enough to just generate a lead.
No.
You have to be able to convert that lead.
Yeah. And if people don't understand what that process looks like and what they're supposed to be doing at each stage of the process and kind of what people go through logically, emotionally, like what do they need during that thing, and you can't give it to them, you're not going to be able to do that. But you can't do that until you understand a basic thing like a buyer journey, for example, which is much the same thing, sales process.
Yeah.
So what do they need at this stage? What do they need at this stage? What do they need at this stage? Do you have those pieces of the puzzle in place to get that person from, this looks like it might solve my problem, to take my money?
Right. And so you said something really interesting because you were talking about customer education. Right. And I think that people don't realize, I remember being really pissed off that I had to educate customers. Why can't they just know what I do and want to work with me? Like, why do I have to educate them? But obviously we do. And once I realized that, it changed everything in my business. And so, you were saying you were using Instagram to educate your customer, which is a really important part of guiding them in the buyer journey. So how are you doing that now?
A lot of that comes from, I have a lot of content that I've generated over the last 3 years, educational stuff, breaking down the nuts and bolts of my primary thing that I do, which is community projects. I should probably explain that first.
Yeah, tell us.
What I do with people is I help them run what I call a community project, which is sort of, I suppose the easiest way to give people an in is to say it's a bit like a summit, if a summit was completely different. You're gathering together a bunch of people to talk about a thing in the same way that you would with a summit, for example. But when it comes to a community project, you're looking at, I call them kind of quiet revolutions. So you're looking at gathering people around an idea which really fucking matters. Mm-hmm. Whether it's, I've got somebody who's working on a project at the moment about exactly what we're talking about in this conversation. Like, we know what the problems are with the online coaching industry, the online business industry, the online marketing industry. Great. Where do we go from here? Mm-hmm. How do we craft, the next iteration of online business? And it's a combination of content, which is delivered by email, and then a place to come and discuss and talk about it with everybody who's participating, everybody who's in the audience. Everybody's opinion is valid and welcomed. They're really long. They last about a month. They're really in depth. Like when you said about going deep, not wide, this is exactly, the essence of that. And it's a brilliant opportunity it covers your market research, it covers your marketing, it covers your who do I want to build relationships with next. It covers like everything. And I've had clients who that's all the marketing outward facing stuff they need to do in a year. They can fill their client docket, they can have all their content taken care of. Like, they're really powerful. But they're very unusual. There's nobody else that I know of who's doing anything like this. So I have to go right back to the beginning and not only tell people what the benefits are, but also what is this thing, like how it works, how, what it looks like, what it can do for your business, why it's a good thing, taking it all the way back to like being a human being in business and being, having a business that is driven by your values and what you care about, and working with people who share those values, people who you get on with, people who aren't going to make you like see their name on your calendar and make you want to stab your eyes with a fork, because we've all been there.
Yes, we have.
So it's there's a lot of kind of educational stuff that goes along with that. So I have, every time someone has asked me a question about it over the last 3 years, I've developed that into a piece of content or part of a piece of content, which I can then kind of guide people where they need to go once they've heard about me. So first touch point would be something like this. They hear me on a podcast. They might come to my website. Immediately they see kind of what is a community project, what is the framework that I'm operating in, what it looks like. They can see what it does for other people. If they sign up to my newsletter, they get pointed in the direction of those kind of key articles. If they sign up for the waitlist to work with me, they get more stuff. And it's just kind of this drip, drip, drip of, depending on where people are in their kind of acquaintance with me, how much they know, where they've come from, they get different pieces of information, going all the way through to an exploratory call where we sit down and we actually talk about what it might look like for them and their specific business. But usually by the time people get to that stage, it's basically just ironing out details. I never, ever have to sell on a sales call.
Yeah,
because my content does the job for me.
Correct, because your content follows your sales process.
Exactly.
Which I think that people would have more success on social media if they actually created content that aligned with a sales process and with their buyer journey.
Yeah,
and I think that, again, that's not being taught. It's just use social media, and people don't understand necessarily always why they're using it. They think they're using it to get followers or get some kind of engagement through a like or an emoji or something like that. But that's typically irrelevant. I don't really care so much about that. I would much rather people feel comfortable DMing me or emailing me or signing up for my email list or listening to this podcast than anything else. So I'm hoping, also the other thing is I'm a little concerned about where we're going in general with big tech and being regulated. That's also been like a piece to this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like we are slowly, or we have already, I mean, it's already happened. We have let kind of 4 or 5 corporations control our entire existence, to the point where I hate Facebook. It doesn't do anything for me personally. I don't use it socially. I have a Facebook page, but I never post on it. And yet I'm still hesitant to just deactivate my account and walk away, because there are so many things that are fundamental to life as we know it now that just don't exist anymore, because Facebook has kind of stepped in and filled that gap and pushed out anything else that we could have used. So, I mean, a really kind of off the top of my head example is something like Facebook events. It used to be that you could, sign up for individual venues and they'd let you know when the stuff was happening. And now all the time it's, follow our Facebook page. Here's a Facebook event. Like, here's all the details. If you don't have Facebook, you can't see that information, which is like, it's a tiny thing, but it is the sort of like death by 1,000 cuts. Like, that's one thing. Then there's something else. Then there's something else. And what they've done is they've kind of tentacled their way into every part of our lives. And we've allowed it because it's been so kind of incremental and useful and convenient a lot of the time. And now they're influencing our elections. They are driving people crazy with the QAnon stuff. I read a terrifying article about the far-right incel movement, which is influencing like young boys and things like that. The whole kind of anti-vax information that's out there in the world. I mean, do whatever you want with your body, but maybe don't believe an article you read on Facebook on the toilet. Maybe do some proper research. There's like all this stuff, and they're monitoring everything, and it's absolutely terrifying when you stop and you kind of look into it. But at the same time, how on earth do we even extricate ourselves from that?
I think,
these days.
So I'm with you. And I think that's why we're, part of why we're having this conversation around, how do we take control back of our businesses? How do we take control back of our lives from these companies that have infiltrated and have manipulated the algorithm and manipulated what we see. If you haven't watched The Social Dilemma, I would go watch The Social Dilemma. And just a genuine concern coming from me around business owners being heavily reliant on these other companies, even to the point where I've heard the amounts of money that people put into Facebook ads. And it's like, at that point, they're not profitable. They're sinking all this money into Facebook ads. And it's like, and they take home so little in actual pay and profit from their businesses that they're almost like a glorified marketing assistant for Mark Zuckerberg.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I'm just asking people, I think what I'm asking people is to think differently about how you market and sell in your business. I'm asking women to unhook themselves from the complicated tactics and belief systems that we need this to grow our businesses, that we have to jump through all these hoops. And if you are going to use these tools, how can you use them in a way that is intentional and that you are at least monitoring the return on your energy
Mm-hmm.
and the return on your time and the return on your mental health when you're on these tools. And I hope that maybe a takeaway that you got from Ellie and I today is that, we're not putting all of our eggs in this social media basket and we're still successful.
Mm-hmm.
That we are curiously investigating other strategies. We're testing things. We're falling back on just good old fashioned business fundamentals. We're committed to building real relationships with people. I have clients I've had clients in the past who are just so not willing to be in a relationship and to start a conversation and to actually talk to people. That's not how business works. It doesn't work that way. You can't hide behind your laptop. I know we've made it look that way, but it's not true.
No. There are so many people, like the people that you admire in business, the people who seem to be the most successful. Most of it is happening behind the scenes. They're making friends with people. They're helping each other out. They're, going on each other's podcasts and guest
doing this scary thing and saying, hey, do you want to have this conversation? Do you want to connect via this way? Or going to a conference or something where they can meet people.
Yeah.
So, that's really how I've been using social media for my entire business, is really very behind the scenes. Like, you don't actually often see the time that I'm spending there doing those things. What would be, so I want to end this on a positive note. We don't want to, I get that people are like, but I think a lot of my listeners are with us. Yeah. I do. And by the way, I want you to reach out and let me know, and you can DM me on Instagram at the Tara Newman. I want to know what you think about this topic. Are you with us and looking for a way to reimagine marketing outside social media? I know a lot of people that listen to this podcast do wind up working with me and say like, oh, I hate social media, and we give them sales skills that they can use with or without social media. So what do we want to leave them with? Like, what's the take? What's the silver lining?
First of all, I do want to say that it's not necessarily about demonizing social media. I mean, it's still a fantastic tool. I think we're probably going to see it decline over the next 5-10 years and something else will come and take its place. But at the moment, if you're enjoying it, if you're getting what you want out of it, if you enjoy dancing around, pointing at things on reels, then knock yourself out, Have
I say
fun.
That all the time.
Do what works for you. However, if you're feeling like, oh my God, social media and marketing are just synonymous, and if I want to market my business, then I need to be on social media, then, oh my God, no, you don't. And also, if social media is the only way that you're getting clients and customers, then please build something of your own, because you need something when these companies do whatever it is they're going to do. You don't have any control over that. So you need something that you own, like an email list, like a blog or a website or something where you can at least control how you're communicating with people. Leave them with something positive. Just, oh my God, there are a million, billion, squillion ways to get into conversation with people, which is ultimately what marketing boils down to, really. I mean, there's a whole...
So true.
You need to know what you do. You need to have an offer. You need to know what your messaging is, all of that. But basically, a lot of that you can just figure out by being in conversation with people. You can do research by being in conversation with people. You can sell stuff without even trying by being in conversation with people. So as long as you have a way to do that, it doesn't matter what that way is. It can not even be on the internet, Oh, shocker.
This is true.
You can actually talk to people in real life as well.
This is very true.
As long as you are in conversation with people, that's enough.
Yeah. I second what Ellie said around if this stuff works for you and you love it and it lights you up, and there's totally people like, I always say that. I said, listen, if you love launching, if you love doing this and it really ticks your personality, do it. I'm not here to tell you not to do it. I'm here for the 80% of the people who are looking for a different solution and maybe feeling alone out there, like this is the only way it has to be. And so I just want to provide a different level of conversation around that. And I also want to say that just remember how much time you spend on social media does shape your beliefs, your attitudes, what you think is possible, what you think is available to you in great ways. Like you can find that mentor where you're like, oh my God, she's showing me what's possible for me. And this is amazing. And it can do it in ways that really become limiting and confining. So, with Ellie, get into conversation with people and crossover and step out of and be curious for sure. Yeah. Ellie, tell them where they can find you.
The best thing to do is to come over to my website, which is ellietriacommunities.com. and sign up for Sunday letters. They're on a little bit of a summer break at the moment, but they will be back fairly soon. I haven't got an exact date yet. They're great. That's where all my thought leadership, all my original thinking, everything goes into that. I am also on Instagram. I'm not posting very much, but my DMs are open and I'm at Ellie Tria Communities over there. And I do just want to say, I do actually have an offer. If you're curious about what Tara and I have been talking about today with the sort of using social media as a search engine to find your ideal people and starting up conversations in DMs and that kind of thing. If you look on my website for Love is Greater Than Numbers in the shop, there's a whole workbook there which will guide you through how to find people, how to recognize your people, how to talk to them, what to say. There's all sorts of stuff.
That's an amazing offer.
All sorts
I love
of things.
that.
So you come and take a look at that. Yeah.
But what I want everyone to hear, what I really want everybody to take away is Ellie as an introvert, as someone with highly sensitive energy. She is proactively engaging and starting people in conversation. Just because you're an introvert doesn't mean that that's not available to you. It 100% is.
Absolutely. And it's just about finding the right people. A lot of what I teach people is how to identify what I call their kindred spirits. And those are the people that you just click with. You just know they're going to be, you're going to have a chat with them and you're going to be tired because it's tiring, but it will be that lovely sort of day at the beach tired rather than, oh my God, kill me now tired. So once you can identify those people, it gets a lot easier and you can just spot them. And then you're not having conversations with people that aren't the right fit for you, that make you feel drained and exhausted. And that is key because we have limited social energy and it has to go on the right people.
And on that note, Ellie and I are going to say goodbye, and then we're going to go do all the introvert things to restore our energy after having this conversation with all of you.
Yep.
True?
True. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for coming on, Ellie.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Hey, Bold Leader. I'm so excited to announce that we are accepting applications for the Bold Profit Academy, formerly known as the Brave Society. And we can't wait to have you join us just in time for our Q2 curriculum. Starting in March, we are focused on nailing your offers and your offer stack so you can stand out in the marketplace and, quite frankly, not hustle so dang hard for your revenue. One of the biggest problems I see among small business owners is the creation of cookie cutter offers that don't truly add value to your business because you don't fully understand your own value. And that leads to a tremendous amount of overworking and under-earning. Reviewing offers, updating offers, creating new offers, these are all critical skills so you can leverage your time and scale your income, which is exactly what we are doing inside the Bold Profit Academy in Q2. Each quarter, we have live curriculum in addition to our already on-demand training that you can implement as you need it. So if you are looking to understand the 7 components required for creating your boldest offer so you can stand out in the marketplace and increase your sales, Learn how to stack and price offers so you can hit your revenue goal without overworking. Create a framework that allows you to market, sell, deliver your offer in a way that is efficient and repeatable. Learn how to qualify leads so you know just who is the right fit for your offer and when they are ready to buy, as well as create a simple communication strategy to educate your leads on your offer so it speeds up the buying process. Then you are going to want to head over to theboldleadershiprevolution.com/academy and join us today. If you found this podcast valuable, help us develop more bold leaders in the world by sharing this episode with your friends, colleagues, and other bold leaders. Also, if you haven't done so already, please leave a review. I consider reviews like podcast currency, and it's the one thing you can do to help us out here at the Bold Leadership Revolution HQ. We would be so grateful for it. Special thanks goes to Stacey Harris from Uncommonly More, who is the producer and editor of this podcast. Go check them out for all your digital marketing and content creation needs. Be sure to tune into the next episode to help you embrace your ambition and leave the grind behind.